Hi, my name's Kyle Smith. I'm going to be interviewing my mother for History 485 for our final project. So, Mom, what is your name?
My name is Joanne Pastorius Smith.
Is Pastorius our family name?
Well, it's my family name.
Okay. So, where are you from?
I am from Pennsylvania.
What part?
The eastern Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley, which is about an hour north of Philadelphia, where Germantown is located.
Okay. So, who from our family immigrated to the United States?
Well, I'm sure we had many from our family, but one of the original was Francis Daniel Pastorius, who's from my father's side of the family, came from Germany. Well, before he came to the United States, he got a law degree, so he was a lawyer over in Germany, and when he came over here, he was the lawyer for the town, eventually became the lawyer for the town, and was very involved with the Mennonites and the Quakers. And so he led that group, and they settled in Germantown.
So, moving on to more of a comparison from then to now, do you see any challenges faced in today's society that Francis may not have faced?
Well, yeah, immigration quotas, the number of individuals that the United States accepts from different countries, visas to come and stay. I mean, they were coming over to settle and start a new community over here, where now people are coming to already settled land. So yeah, it was much different. I just think that if they survived their trip across the ocean and getting settled through the first winters, then they're just completely different than and now.
Hi, so my name is Kyle Smith. I am a student at Arizona State University, and as you heard, my mother's name is Joanne Pastorius Smith, and we are related to Francis Daniel Pastorius. He is a founder of Germantown, which is located in Philadelphia, and so today I want to share with you some of his story, but also work on a kind of a comparison and contrast to what modern day immigration is in comparison to how he had it and what he had to face with coming to the New World, and how it's different and what other parts of the world are facing. And my goal for this is to make it more educational and try to keep politics out of it as much as possible. I know that in today's society, currently we are facing a variety of issues in the United States with the southern border and with President Trump and what his idea is and how he thinks we should handle it. Francis came over in the year 1683, and he was commissioned by a group of individuals in Germany to come to the United States. He was a lawyer and was hired as the go-between for William Penn so he could acquire some land in the United States. And as we saw in the interview, it was later named Germantown, first German settlement in the United States, and he was able to work with the other individuals he came over with, other religious groups, other individuals from around Germany that wanted a new start and believed in the new way of life. And as a result, they came to the United States, which is a common theme that we see throughout our history, individuals coming from all over the world to obtain what we call the American dream and better their lives. And so as we move into today's history, we look at issues from around the world as we see many displaced people face challenges as they come into new countries. We can look over in Europe and the Middle East at places like Syria as those refugees were trying to get away from a war-torn zone and get to more of a safety atmosphere where they felt safe and were able to start a new life, find new jobs, new homes. And that's kind of a common theme as you look throughout immigration history, whether it be from people coming to the United States, people moving out of places like Russia or Germany during different wartime zone areas. You can look at the Chinese immigration in the United States, and into today's immigration policies we see mass groups coming from South America and other groups from Mexico that are trying to get away from the major issues that are occurring in their countries coming to the United States. So to look back at other countries, they face the same challenges. They too have borders, and the governments do as they need to create a safety line for their people, but also have the ability for any individuals who are within their guidelines as they see fit to come to the country as immigrants. So most countries want individuals who are willing to work, want to increase the knowledge and the economic status of the country. And as a result, some countries are labeled or their citizens are seen as not worthy, to put it bluntly, but one country, if we look at the United States, for example, the big issue currently is Trump wanting to build a wall. And that's only on the southern border. You don't see him talking about anything on the northern border, and so if we were to look at it from that standpoint, anybody coming from south of the border in the United States, as in Mexico or any parts of South America, are being labeled as possible drug traffickers, criminals, and labeled as illegal. However, if you look to the north with Canada, there's not as a severe presence. There's no heavy necessity, at least as I see it from the political standpoint of our government at the time, to build a wall up there. So you can look at it that way, where there's two borders, two individual groups are labeled differently, and individuals from one country might be seen as a better option for the country rather than one other group that are seen as a negative result or a negative action that could result in more harm than good to the country. So to go on that same topic, books like this one, Beyond Walls and Cages, speak about a variety of issues, both with prisons, borders, and global issues. In the book, it does speak about how resources are used for certain individual groups. So to speak more on countries being favored over others, resources might be spent more for individuals who governments see as a economic or educational, intellectual gain to the country, and others might result in less resources being sent or allocated to those countries. So some countries might receive faster aid if there's a natural disaster, or might have an easier time with immigration to certain countries, or certain individuals might not get detained, whereas some individuals might be subjected to certain searches or detainment within crossing the border. To relate it to Francis, back in the early years of people coming to the United States, it was to start a new life. They pretty much had to pay their way. They had to know somebody with land. So, as I said earlier, Francis's group paid for land and acquired it from William Penn, which Germantown is now a part of Philadelphia. It's historical monuments throughout it, and impacted history in certain ways. It was one of the first locations to speak out against slavery, as Francis Daniel Pastorius was a lawyer. He did work on civil rights stuff and was one of the first individuals with a group of people to speak out against slavery in the United States. And so to look more into human rights, with the displacement of individuals or the resources of individuals not being spent or being individuals becoming categorized, we can look at books like this one, Coyote's Bicycle, Untold Story of 7,000 Bicycles and the Rising of a Borderland Empire. This book goes into detail about several individuals' lives, starting from early villages in Mexico and how both north and south of the border actions were taken by different border patrols, but also individuals that were involved in the smuggling in groups of people into the United States who were just trying to better their life. So like Francis, they want to come here, they want to work, they want to live, they want to be able to provide for their family, start a new life, but they are then unable to nowadays due to more restricted border policies, laws, detention, and higher border patrol presence compared to what Francis would necessarily have to deal with. Now, to say the struggles are different, they are, but it's all about time. We're more modern now. Individuals coming back in Francis Daniel Pastorius' time faced resettlement, building, starting from scratch. Similarly, that's what individuals who come to the United States, they need to find work, they need to find a place to stay, and they work on trying to better their life. So to compare them, each has struggles. One just had less government involvement in coming to the United States. So to bring up the wall again, walls don't always create the best situation for individuals who may have already been living on the border. And I'm not addressing like individuals who are in Mexico that are trying to come here, but individuals who land and property was there prior to the formation of the nation. So we can look at indigenous people or Native Americans whose land might be sacred and are on the border, and as a result of the wall being built, it could result in groups of that community being cut off from each other and resulting in damage to sacred land, sacred property, and cutting families off from each other who might live on different parts of a town. And as a result of the border wall being built, you would see individuals trying to communicate and stay in touch with each other similarly to if you were to live in like different parts of a country, but this would be a forced situation that they may not have any control over, and without government help they wouldn't be able to do much. So again, it goes back to the resources, where you're going to spend resources to restrict individuals from coming into a nation, or having them not be restricted in helping them come to the nation on fronts, but you also have to look at what it might impact on our nation and our citizens that are already here, and individuals whose land are sacred, and what it's going to do to them. So I want to talk about a different book now, and kind of step away from the immigration topic and talk about places or situations where human nature comes into play. So Paradise Built in Hell, there's a section of this book that speaks about kind of like the human nature and how in a time of need or a disaster people come together. In immigration, people are classified and denied or granted access based off location, and we see something different when disasters take place. People are very quick to aid someone individually, or aid a group of people who are in need, not based off where they're from, what their religion is, their race, location, And a lot of people have that type of human nature that let's help those in need. But yet when it comes to immigration, it's similar, where people are in need and people want to come and change their lives for the better, but are unable to because the opinion is different in that situation. And the resources and money that might have been spent for someone in a disaster situation, and let's use any of the islands in the oceans that get hit by hurricanes and how they have to rebuild. Thousands, millions of dollars are sent down or across around the world to aid countries like that. But yet individuals who want to come to the country are faced with a different type of resistance, who are trying to possibly be those individuals that are trying to leave those countries. So are people willing to help as long as the help doesn't mean coming to their country? Or is it just a human nature thing to help people until a change takes place and it affects your life? Those were questions that I thought about when reading the book, and it really made me wonder and question why some of our immigration policies are so harsh, and yet our government's so quick to help those in need. One of the final points I want to touch on is the detention centers. So if you do come to the United States illegally, there's a chance that you will be detained, and at any given point you can be put in a detention center in one state and be transferred to another in another state. And it would not be that big of a deal if there was still communication with family members to say, hey, this individual was sent here, you need to contact them, this is how you will do so. Same thing goes for lawyers that are trying to aid these individuals. People's families are separated, children are taken away from parents, loved ones are separated, families are broken apart, and sometimes it takes months for anybody to locate that person, and by the time they locate that individual, they are unable to really communicate with them, because by the time the communication reaches that person, they are then moved again. So it keeps that person in the detention centers and makes it harder for them to either A, get back to their country, back to their family, which then results in that family's resources that should be going to taking care of the family, so food, money, time is taken away from the family in the aspect of they're using that to try to find their loved one, but they are then unable to use that individual's income. So let's say a father is put into a detention center and he is the main individual who's making the money for a family, and he is moved and moved and moved, and the lawyers are struggling to keep in touch and get him back to a family. And let's say the mother doesn't work and they have 3 children. How are they going to support themselves? What's going to happen? It's more leans back, at least to me, on the human nature aspect of it, of how can you keep somebody in a detention center when knowing their family is needed. And I understand that maybe they are here illegally, but why not try to help them and get them on the right path if they want to be here this bad, to not only help their family but possibly make an impact on our country. So an example of that would be lawyers. There was a New York Times journal that was just posted earlier this month about how lawyers are able to contact individuals in a jail through video communication, so like Skype or FaceTime type technology. The problem is that video is then being able to be used in courts, and it's supposed to just be a communication between the client and the lawyer, but then it is used to incriminate, and lawyers are having a major problem with that because it's not really fair to the clients, and people are getting deported back to their countries as a result of stuff that's supposed to just be between the lawyer and the client. So it's another situation where the restrictions and policies have resulted in a more restrained and more restricted situation where people who want to be here are having a very hard time come to the new countries, whether it be the United States, whether it be someplace in Europe, around the world, and that may not be a threat. There might be a mistake, and as a result, that individual is treated differently, and it could be someone who is looking to come for an education and apply that education to our communities and make a difference. And it just doesn't seem fair that someone like that would be withheld the opportunity to make a difference in our world. So to then relate this all back to how back in the 1600s, when Francis and other individuals were coming to the United States, you see that they can come, they're able to build their settlement and do the work as they needed to better their life and create a community and create a situation for their future family members to succeed. Yet now we have a situation where some people can't do that, others can. And kind of to conclude, I would say that times have changed, so things change over time. That's how events take place, policies change, laws change, and individuals are tested both from a human nature, civil rights, and willpower to keep pursuing their dream to come to a new country. But at the same time, it would be easier if some things, there was a more clear-cut way of getting individuals to get into the system and work with them. And I understand that national security and safety of the people is a much needed focus of the government, and making sure that people that are coming into the country are have good intent and are safe for the population, and restricted borders, that it's going to cause situations where you're going to have individuals who grow a hatred and grow ill thoughts towards the countries that they're trying to get in and create a better life for themselves. And it doesn't help when policies and laws restrict them as well, but the big thing is the detention centers and how people profit off of holding individuals in those. And to bring it back to individuals like Francis, I don't see how it is in their ideals and how he lived his life to allow countries to impact not only civil rights, but someone's desire to change their life, when most of our families came from another country, immigrated here, and were able to change their lives, yet we're not willing to help those in need. So thank you for your time. I do appreciate you taking a moment, and please leave any comments, questions, opinions down below.